forward to what is Christianity. So let's get into it today. It's going to be wonderful. I just trust that you're all enjoying this series. It's really the bedrock for what we do here on Adventures in Grace. It's the reason why we can set ourselves up to experience God more consistently in our life. So number one, the reason why we do these videos is for God to become more real. Just as we said, on a regular basis with consistency, God working in your life. Now, I'll just share this real briefly. It's the consistent opening of your heart and remembrance of what's most important to you, being the Lord in your life, that causes you to begin to see Him actually working in your life versus missing the opportunities of experiencing God or thinking maybe this was just a coincidence today. No, what if God's really working in your life and the things that people might call coincidences or having a lucky day might actually be the Lord working with you? Well, this is what we want to do. Open our hearts to this. Number two, the more that you begin to experience Him or the more real He becomes to you, because this is the whole thing that's happening. The more real God is in your life, the easier it is to trust Him. The more affection you have for Him, the more you're excited this was a God experience. Then you're going to be, what I believe is walking in faith the way faith was meant to be. I really don't think faith was meant to be pulled aside into its own subject. In other words, let's build our faith up so we can get this. Why not your faith constantly be in the connection that you have with God, the realness of God to you, and then the things that you would be normally believing for, they won't be there. I'm telling you, there's a new paradigm that we need to allow ourselves to be changed into, and I believe we're going to help you with that even today. Well, then the third thing that happens is testimonies. And so let me read one of these testimonies today. Hello, I just wanted to share how very much your teachings are helping. I have thought more than once, where have I been all this time? The Holy Spirit brought back to my memory how He told me, and I heard Him so clearly with this, how you were going to be able to help me. I love watching and learning too from the different churches you teach at. I really enjoy too your wife joining you and what she brings to the table from Him. How very real He is becoming and how real He is making His truths. The one where we have the truth in His word, but don't have the experience to go with it went off in me like an atomic bomb. Watching Him move among the people at the churches is so very wonderful. A recent grace story, a few weeks back, He led me to go down a specific aisle in the grocery store. I did not know why. I came upon a clearance basket, and right on top was a coffee cup with the words, "Just Peachy." I had liked that cup 3 months ago, but did not want to pay the price they were asking, so I let it go. Now here it was, the last one left and only a couple of dollars and in perfect condition. So I scooped it up and thanked Him. And so I love all of the stories we get. And as simple as this story is, it shows you that if we'll listen and pay attention, God knows the things that we want. He knows the things that we need. He understands the things that we desire. Come on, put all that together. If we'll just learn to connect with Him regularly and not make something such a big deal, He'll bring things back around cheaper, better, faster, more of what you could have wanted than if you would have gotten it earlier. You know, learning to let go of our cares is one of the huge keys to be able to experience Him fully. And so thank you very much for this wonderful grace story that we have. And now let's bring it right full circle into the relationship with Jesus. Matthew 11:27-30 in the Message Bible, it says, "Now Jesus resumed talking, but now tenderly. The Father has given me all these things to do and say." This is a unique father and son operation coming out of father and son intimacies and knowledge. No one knows the Son the way the Father does, nor the Father the way the Son does, but I'm not keeping it to myself. I'm ready to go over it line by line with anyone willing to listen. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on tradition and on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting upon you. Keep company with me and you'll learn how to live freely and lightly. Well, I'm all into the freely and lightly and no stress type of life. And I tend to be more tightly wound. So this is something that really speaks to me. Now we're going to jump back into some of the things that we started. What is Christianity? And if you remember, we started way back in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 17. Pray without ceasing, sharing with you that prayer was really interaction, communion, or fellowship with God. So if we're to interact with God without ceasing, how does that look? Does that mean we're always moving our lips and talking to him? Does that mean we're always praying in other tongues? Does that mean he's always talking to us? Well, you could say yes on every one of those and yet dial that back to say in a manner. In other words, sure, there's moments we're talking with him, he's talking with us. There's moments where we're praying in other tongues. There's moments that he's showing you something, but you can start very simply by beginning to look for him in your life and beginning to acknowledge that he's there. We're gonna be getting into acknowledgement here as we go through all these different things that we're talking about, but it's very important that you open your heart and mind to God being in your life. And if he is, could you find him? Could you see him in the way that things operate on a regular basis? Could those lucky days or coincidences or those special moments actually involve him? Things that he's planned out for you, and you're now becoming more aware, or you're becoming more consistent with wanting to see him. All of this works together for you to have grace stories. So we're going to jump right back in, and we're going to start right here at Romans chapter 8 and verse 5 in the Passion Translation. Excuse me. It says, those who are motivated by the flesh only pursue what benefits themselves. You could also put in there those that are motivated by the law, only do things that benefit themselves. See, the law is about you perfecting your own life. It's all about your performance. And so your heart and your mind is really fixated on, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I want to make sure I do the right thing. Well, we don't have time for this, but that really is the whole tree of the knowledge of good and evil mentality. There's good and there's evil, and I better do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. Paul called that a life basically of insanity, where the things that I don't want to do, I do, and the things I want to do, I don't do. Isn't it interesting that that kind of living is not the way we're supposed to be thinking? In other words, if you were in the garden and there wasn't any wrong and everything about you was right, wouldn't you just go from one right decision to another right decision? In other words, think of the other tree, the tree of life. We'll get into this someday, but doesn't the tree of life represent eternal perfection, eternal goodness? In other words, no evil to think about, I shouldn't do that. Just good and better and best. How about living in a life where we see ourselves completely as Christ has made us? This is what we're getting to. So it goes on to say, but those who live by the impulse of the Holy Spirit are motivated to pursue spiritual realities. And that's what we want to become good at, is spiritual realities. So we don't want to live under the law mentality. Now, this has nothing to do with you can do whatever you want and forget about any sense of consciousness. Has nothing to do with that. This is just we're learning to live in the freedom of being fixed by God instead of continuing to see ourselves needing to be fixed. So then we wouldn't live with limitations in what you can't do. We wouldn't need to work on the actions of our flesh because our spiritual connection to God is perfect and we see ourselves in his perfection. In other words, how do you, someone would say, how do you reconcile saying something like that? Because we always have to work on our flesh. Well, wait a minute. If you're dead to sin, then how could there be a temptation? See, we need to come really far over to this place of not seeing ourselves being tempted, not seeing ourselves in weakness, not seeing ourselves in failure, not seeing ourselves in sin, not seeing ourselves sick or diseased. Yeah, I need to get healed. You know I need to. What if we were already healed? What would that look like? How would that make us think? What actions would we be willing to do that we're not willing to do right now because we need to get healed? And if we need to get healed, then we certainly can't do something when there's a need. You see, we've got to let the Lord begin to change the way we see ourselves. We would be released from the efforts of the flesh and constant correctional thoughts. See, that doesn't compute. When you live under the law, when you live in the by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, excuse me again. In other words, I've got to do the right thing. I'm failing here. I'm missing it here. Well, what if you can't miss it? What if you can't be tempted? What if you're beyond that? What if you're really connected to him? What if your spirit man is in control and he's giving the information of what's true to your mind, to your soul, to your will, to your emotions? What if your body is starting to fall in line instead of taking the lead position to talk to you all the time? Then what I said would be true. We'd be released from the efforts of the flesh and constant correctional thoughts. Or another one is freed from emotional trauma. The emotional trauma of I'm trying so hard, I'm just not making it. What else can I do? Oh God, did you choose the right person for this assignment? I'm messing up. Well, listen, number one, God already knows that according to the world of the flesh and everyone's perfect performance, that he probably won't find anybody that is 100% perfect like Christ was. But what he wants to find is someone who is willing to see themselves the way that he sees you. And all of a sudden, this begins to change the game because now I'm no longer behind the 8 ball trying to catch up. I'm well in front. I'm already an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. I always have the victory. Now, greater is he that's in you than he that's in all these things that we've spoken, that we've confessed, that we know the scriptures. It's time for us to live like it's true. What if my imagination were free to experience grace? You said, well, why isn't my imagination? Because our imaginations are polluted with this flesh and this world realm. What if they were holy imaginations? Imaginations where I saw myself doing what I've never done before, and I saw myself perfect like I've never been before, and I saw myself capable or I've never had the ability before. See, free yourself because Christ has set you free. So the limitations that we find from within the religion and the tradition and the ways of this world where we confine ourselves to a mentality that's always struggling for what's right. I love this over in Romans 6:14. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you're no longer under the law, but under grace. And the Pilcher translation says, sin shall not dominate you because you are not under the dispensation of the law, which would control you by external commands. Sin shall not dominate you, because you are not under the dispensation of the law, which control you by external commands, but under the dispensation of God's loving kindness and grace, which inspires you from within to right living. You're under what? We're under God's dispensation of loving kindness and grace, which inspires me within to right living. In other words, I find the inspiration from within to just do this and to do that and to think this and to think that. I'm not trying to think something better than what I thought. I'm inspired from within to see, to know, and to act according to who I am within. This is going to change the way we do life, everyone. We have been trying so hard. We've been living under this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I know I'm bringing some of these thoughts constantly back in, but it's this place of there's always decisions, a right and a wrong, a right and a wrong, a right and a wrong. And yes, we want to make a distinction between what is right and what is wrong, between what is of God and what is not of God. Every time we choose to connect our heart to God and the spiritual world, we're making advances spiritually and things are coming alive in us. I do get that. But we want to switch over from seeing ourselves trying and not able to, and we're not there yet, and there's something else I need to do, over into I'm free, I'm loose, I'm in this wide open, spacious life. I'm no longer confined, I'm no longer fettered, I'm no longer shackled. Oh, glory to God. I can just choose from this place of perfection and righteousness and life. That's all I'm going to give you right now. We're going to jump back into some of these things and make it clear and clear and clear until you begin to realize, like some of the scriptures, this is so good. I'm going to go back here. It says in Romans 8:12 to 14 in the Message Bible, this is where we want to get to. So don't you see that we don't owe this old do-it-yourself life one red cent? There's nothing in it for us, nothing at all. The best thing to do is give it a decent burial and get on with your new life. This is where we want to be. We want to get out of the thinking that we're trying so hard and get over into I've got a new life. And this is where it says God's Spirit beckons. There are things to do and places to go. This is where we're going to come to, everybody. This is really exciting. So glad to be with you on Adventures in Grace. Make sure you tune in again, the very next video that we have, so we can continue in these thoughts here. But go to jhmi@jimhockaday.com, find our email, that's what it is, and send us your grace stories so that we can all rejoice and be encouraged, be enlightened, our imaginations can grow as to how God can work in and through our lives. That's Christianity. See you next time on Adventures in Grace.